The sun set on Virith 7, casting long shadows across the planet's vibrant cities. The peaceful colony was nestled among rolling fields of green and blue, vast oceans that sparkled in the fading light. It had been a symbol of human ingenuity and hope, a thriving hub of commerce and culture in the far reaches of space. Yet all of that was about to change without warning, without mercy. A massive alien fleet descended upon the world from the blackness of space. Their ships moved with precision and power. The first assault came without a single communication or warning, no demands or negotiations, just destruction and chaos. Waves of energy tore through the atmosphere. As the first ships began their bombardment, the ground shook as buildings were leveled and fires ignited. The air grew thick with the smoke of burning debris. Screams echoed through the streets of the cities as their citizens scrambled to find shelter, but there was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The alien ships were relentless, their weapons fired again and again, reducing entire regions to ashes. The skies were filled with the flashing lights of explosions and the screeching sounds of falling debris. The once peaceful planet was now a hellscape. Every moment felt like an eternity for those caught in the madness. And as the final city fell, the last message from Virith 7 was broadcast across the stars, a distress signal laced with the panicked voices of the colony's leaders and citizens. Among the cries of terror, one chilling sentence stood out above all others: "You are not ready." The transmission ended, and with it the last hope of any survivors across the galaxy. The message reached Earth, and it reverberated through every communication channel. It spread like wildfire across news networks and social media. Humanity watched in horror as the devastation unfolded. But it was not just horror that gripped them, it was anger. It was a fury that coursed through the hearts of every human being who heard it. They were not ready for what the galaxy had thrown at them, but they would be ready now. The Earth Council was convened immediately, as the reality of the situation settled in. Those who were once divided on issues of defense and military readiness now stood united by a single undeniable truth: humanity had been attacked without reason, without mercy, and the cost had been astronomical. As the council members argued and debated, the only thing clear was the fact that a response was needed. Some called for diplomacy, others for retaliation, but the one thing everyone agreed upon was that this could not go unanswered. Within hours, the decision was made: Earth would strike back, not with one ship or two, but with an entire armada. They would unleash their hidden fleet of 700,000 warships, built in secret over the course of decades. These warships were humanity's final answer to anyone who thought they could push them around. They would show the galaxy that humans were not weak or unprepared, but that they were a force to be reckoned with. And the aliens who thought they could destroy humanity would soon learn what it meant to awaken a sleeping giant. The world held its breath as Earth's response was set into motion. The warships would rise, and humanity's wrath would follow in their wake. Glimmers of dawn broke over Earth as the news of Virith 7's destruction spread across the planet. Millions of people sat glued to their screens, their hearts heavy with grief and rage. The scale of the attack was unlike anything humanity had ever witnessed. No one had prepared for such an assault. It was as if the very idea that something could destroy human life so easily had never been considered before. The Earth Council convened in an emergency session within hours of receiving the transmission from the colony. The debates were heated, emotions ran high as every representative spoke their mind. Some called for patience, urging careful diplomacy. Others shouted for immediate retaliation, their voices echoing in the massive hall. The council room was filled with a tense silence as the President of Earth stood before the assembly. His face was hard-set in a grim expression. There were no words of comfort, no rhetoric to soften the blow. Only one question remained: how would they respond? The President spoke with quiet authority, cutting through the chaos. The alien fleets had attacked without provocation. They had made their intentions clear. Their goal was the extinction of humanity or its subjugation. The President's voice rose a fraction as he declared that this act of violence would not go unanswered, not while there was breath in their bodies, and not while humanity still had the strength to fight. The council members exchanged glances. Some nodded their heads in agreement, others looked away, but no one objected. The vote was called for, and with a near unanimous decision, the planet stood together. Earth would strike back. The plan was audacious. A message needed to be sent to every corner of the galaxy. The Earth fleet would be deployed in full strength, an armada of 700,000 warships, each one a testament to human engineering and ingenuity. The decision was made quickly and without hesitation. There would be no retreat, no turning back. The revelation of the fleet's existence sent shockwaves through the media as the announcement echoed across every communication channel. Earth was not unprepared, not weak, and not defenseless. The ships had been in development for decades, and only a handful of people even knew they existed. The details of their design remained classified, but it was clear to the public that humanity was not about to allow an alien power to wipe them out without a fight. The warships were scattered across the planet in secret military bunkers, underground facilities, and orbiting space stations. The ships would be brought online and readied for war. The sheer scale of the fleet was staggering. Each warship was an advanced marvel of human technology, designed to operate seamlessly with the other ships in the fleet. No single force in the galaxy would be able to stop them. As the assembly broke up and leaders began to return to their respective nations, a sense of grim determination settled over the planet. The human race had been attacked, but now it would fight back with everything it had. Humanity's response was not going to be one of weakness. It would be one of relentless fury and relentless resolve. The alien invaders had made a grave mistake. They thought humanity would cower in fear. They would learn soon enough that humanity was not a species to be underestimated, not now, not ever. The preparations were set into motion. Warships were activated across the globe. Crews were assembled and trained in secret. The world was shifting from mourning to action, and in the hearts of every human who watched the events unfold, something shifted to a collective resolve. Took hold. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, and they would soon regret it. The days following the Council's decision were a blur of activity across the globe. Humanity's focus shifted from grief to action as the first phase of the retaliatory plan unfolded. Warships, once hidden in deep space bunkers and under miles of concrete, were now emerging into the light as ships were prepared for launch. Engineers and soldiers worked tirelessly to ensure the fleet was ready. The sheer scale of the operation was overwhelming, with thousands of men and women coordinating efforts in every corner of the planet. It was a race against time, and the clock was ticking. Humanity had no idea when the next alien strike would come, but they were determined to be ready. What the galaxy did not know was that Earth had been preparing for this day for decades. The creation of the 700,000 warships was not a sudden reaction to the attack on Virith 7. It was a long-term plan built in secret in the depths of classified facilities in remote parts of the world. And in the vacuum of space, these ships were not just designed to fight, they were designed to survive. They were a product of humanity's relentless pursuit of knowledge and technology. No one could have predicted the scale or the level of sophistication of the Earth fleet. The warships were equipped with weapons and shields that rivaled the most advanced alien technologies, and the ships were not just machines, they were an extension of the human spirit, a reflection of humanity's resolve and ingenuity. In the deepest recesses of the Earth's military command centers, high-ranking officials and engineers worked with the fleet's commanders to synchronize every detail of the warship's deployment. The fleet's central command would be based in Earth's orbital defense station, but the ships themselves would be spread out in formations across the stars. Their missions varied. Some would be tasked with direct confrontation, others with strategic reconnaissance or sabotage. Humanity knew that their first strike had to be swift and decisive. They could not afford to show any weakness. If the aliens thought they could crush Earth with one blow, they would soon learn otherwise. The humans knew they would need more than just firepower to win this war. They would need to outsmart the alien invaders at every turn. And this was something humanity excelled at, where the aliens relied on brute force and predictable tactics. Humans would exploit their adaptability and ingenuity. The Earth fleet commanders were some of the brightest minds in military history, and they had spent their lives preparing for this moment. Their crews were equally determined and trained in the art of war. Every soldier and officer was resolute in their desire to avenge the loss of their brothers and sisters on Virith 7. They would fight with a fury that no alien force could ever comprehend. Earth's first strike was carefully planned to take the enemy by surprise. The human fleet would emerge from the shadows and strike when the alien forces least expected it. As the warships made their way toward alien space, the fleet's commanders reviewed the intelligence gathered by Earth's covert teams. The aliens had underestimated humanity in ways they could not even begin to understand. The HFY thought they could wipe out a peaceful colony and escape with little consequence. But they were gravely mistaken. Humanity had just begun to show them what it meant to awaken a sleeping giant. The warships slipped into position, each ship waiting for the signal to strike. The galaxy had no idea what was coming, but it would soon find out. The human response would be swift and unforgiving. The silence of space was broken by the hum of the human warships. As they moved into position, the fleet had been carefully scattered across vast distances, each ship hidden in the dark expanses of space, awaiting the moment to strike. Now, that moment had arrived. The first wave of the fleet emerged from their stealth positions like a shadow, falling across the stars. Their emergence was sudden and overwhelming. The HFY had no warning, no time to react. They were still reeling from the shock of the initial attack on Virith 7, and the last thing they expected was the human response. But as soon as the warships appeared in their space, it was already too late. The HFY command center was thrown into chaos. The alien leaders had relied on their superior numbers and firepower to dominate weaker species across the galaxy. They believed humanity would fall in the same way their previous conquests had, but the sight of the 700,000 human warships materializing in their space was enough to shatter their overconfidence. The human ships were unlike anything they had ever seen, sleek and formidable. Their sheer size and technological sophistication were enough to unsettle even the most hardened HFY commanders. But it was not just the ships themselves that were unnerving, it was the human tactics. Earth's fleet had been designed with one simple goal in mind: to outthink and outfight their enemies at every turn. Where the HFY relied on brute force and predictable attacks, humanity thrived on unpredictability and innovation. The first strike came from an unexpected angle. The human warships used a series of decoys and electromagnetic pulses to confuse the HFY sensors, leaving their fleet vulnerable to attack. As the first salvo of energy weapons struck the alien ships, it became clear that the balance of power was shifting. The human ships moved with precision and efficiency, their advanced targeting systems and laser cannons cutting through the alien defenses with terrifying accuracy. The HFY retaliated with their own weapons, but the human ships were already moving again, adapting and countering each move with incredible speed and coordination. The battle was not just one of firepower. It was a battle of minds. The human fleet commanders communicated with near-perfect synchronization, using encrypted channels to coordinate strikes and outmaneuver their alien opponents. They knew that this was their one shot at catching the HFY off guard, and they were determined to make it count. The warships were not just machines. They were an extension of the human will to survive. The crews aboard each ship were composed of the best and brightest humanity had to offer: soldiers, engineers, scientists, and tacticians, all working together as a single cohesive unit. As the human fleet pressed forward, the HFY began to falter. Their once confident attacks turned into disorganized retreats. They had underestimated the human capacity for war, and now they were paying the price. The initial wave of the human fleet had already crippled a significant portion of the HFY forces, and as the battle raged on, the tide began to turn in humanity's favor. The HFY commanders scrambled to regroup, but it was clear that they had underestimated their opponent. This was no longer a one-sided conflict. Humanity had just shown the galaxy that they were not the helpless prey the aliens had believed them to be. The human fleet didn't slow down. They pushed forward with relentless determination, knowing that their victory was only just beginning. The warships moved through the stars like a storm, leaving destruction in their wake. But they were not done yet, not by a long shot. Humanity's wrath had only just begun, and the HFY would soon learn that they had awakened something far more dangerous than they could have ever imagined. The victory of the first battle left the HFY reeling, but it was only the beginning. As the human fleet pushed deeper into HFY space, their enemies scrambled to regroup and devise a new strategy. They had been caught off guard once, But they wouldn't make the same mistake again. The Xathor fleet leaders huddled together in war councils, devising counterattacks and sending out their most powerful ships to challenge humanity's advance. But the more they tried to respond, the more they found themselves outmatched. The Earth fleet was proving to be an unpredictable and overwhelming force, one that moved like a shadow and struck with deadly precision. In the heart of Earth's command center, the fleet commanders were already preparing for the next phase of the conflict. They had learned much from the first battle. Their tactics had been effective. But they knew that the Xathor would not be easily defeated. They would adapt just as humanity had done. The warships continued their march across the stars, now united with a single goal: to cripple the Xathor forces and bring them to their knees. Humanity had proven its ability to outthink and outfight, but now it was time to show the Xathor what it truly meant to be human. The ships that made up the Earth fleet were not just designed for combat. They were equipped with cutting-edge technology that had never been seen before. The most impressive of these was the new weapon systems that had been developed in secret deep within Earth's labs. These weapons were capable of devastating entire enemy fleets with one strike, and the humans were not afraid to use them. The Xathor soon discovered this firsthand as the fleet unleashed its most deadly weapon, the Iron Resolve, a system that allowed the warships to project a nearly impenetrable shield across vast areas. The Xathor weapons bounced harmlessly off the shields as the human ships advanced with ruthless efficiency. The Xathor had made a grave mistake. They had assumed that their weapons were more advanced than humanity's, that their sheer numbers would overwhelm the Earth fleet, but they had underestimated humanity's ability to innovate. The Iron Resolve system was only the beginning. The Earth fleet's next move would be one that shook the Xathor to their core. Humanity had developed a series of stealth technologies that allowed their ships to become nearly invisible to enemy sensors. With this advantage, the human fleet was able to strike at the Xathor heart without warning. Their most critical infrastructure was targeted with surgical precision, leaving the alien forces vulnerable and confused. The Xathor began to fracture. Their once united front crumbled under the weight of humanity's relentless assault. Their commanders bickered among themselves, unsure of how to respond to the growing threat. The Xathor had always been a species that prided themselves on their strength and numbers, but now they were seeing that these qualities alone could not save them from a species that could think faster and adapt quicker. The Xathor were no longer the predators they had once been. They were the hunted, and humanity was closing in. The human fleet moved with ruthless determination. As they pushed forward, the battles grew fiercer, but the Xathor forces began to disintegrate. Their morale shattered with each new defeat. The human fleet's victory seemed more and more inevitable, but the war was far from over. The Xathor had underestimated the resolve of humanity, and now they would pay the price. They had awoken a force that would not rest until the entire galaxy knew just how dangerous humanity truly was. The war continued to escalate across the stars as humanity's fleet pressed deeper into Xathor space. The once formidable alien empire now found itself under siege, its defenses crumbling under the relentless assault of the human warships. With every passing day, the Xathor fleet was pushed further and further back. Their commanders began to panic, knowing that they were no longer in control of the situation. Their once proud ships were now vulnerable to humanity's unmatched ingenuity and firepower. They had underestimated their opponents, and now they were paying the price. Earth's commanders were methodical in their approach. Each battle was a calculated move designed to strip the Xathor of their ability to retaliate. The fleet continued to move forward in perfect synchronization, never pausing, never faltering. The human ships were as relentless as they were efficient. The Xathor couldn't even get a moment to regroup before the next wave of attacks hit them. Their ships were being shattered by the hour as humanity moved through their space like a storm. On the front lines, the soldiers aboard the human ships were unwavering. Their resolve, stronger than ever. Each one of them carried the weight of vengeance for the colony that had been destroyed on Virith 7. Each strike they made was a tribute to the fallen. Their rage became a weapon as deadly as any laser or missile. The human soldiers knew what was at stake. They fought not just for survival, but for justice, and every blow landed on the Xathor felt like retribution for the millions of innocent lives Lost in the attack, humanity's fury was now a force of nature, and the Xathor were helpless to stop it. The war was no longer just about military might, it had become a war of ideology. The Xathor had once believed that they could crush any species that stood in their way, but they had failed to understand one fundamental truth: humans were not like the others they had faced before. Humanity did not kneel to invaders. Humanity fought back, and when it did, it fought with everything it had. The galaxy had never seen a force so determined, so willing to sacrifice everything for survival. The Xathor's attempts to retaliate became more desperate as they launched larger and more reckless counterattacks, but they were no match for the precision of the human fleet. Every tactic they employed was countered with swift action. Every weapon they launched was met with even deadlier firepower. The Xathor had made a mistake that would cost them everything. They had thought their strength would be enough to crush humanity, but they had failed to see the one thing that made humans so dangerous. They had failed to understand the power of unity, the power of fighting for something worth protecting. In the midst of the chaos, a new message was broadcast across the galaxy. The Xathor had tried to fight back, but it was too late. They had only sealed their fate. The message was clear and unmistakable: humanity was not a species to be destroyed. They were a species to be reckoned with, and the Xathor were about to learn the consequences of underestimating them. The final blow was coming, and no one would be able to stop it. The final confrontation was fast approaching as humanity's fleet closed in on the heart of Xathor's space. The once great empire was now broken and battered. Their last remaining fleets were scattered and disorganized. Each battle felt like it might be the last, yet the Xathor fought with the desperation of a species that knew it had no future if it lost. Their remaining ships were barely functional, and their leaders were grasping at anything they could find to try and turn the tide. They had underestimated humanity from the very beginning, and now the galaxy could see the consequences of that mistake. On the front lines, the human fleet was relentless. They had no intentions of stopping until their vengeance was complete. Each victory they claimed felt like another step toward bringing justice for the destruction of their colony and the millions who had perished in the Xathor attack. Each ship that fell to humanity's weapons represented another enemy, defeated another obstacle, cleared. The human soldiers knew that the end was near. They could feel the momentum building, and it was only a matter of time before the Xathor would have no choice but to surrender or face total annihilation. Humanity's tactics had grown sharper and more effective. With every battle, they adapted to every new move the Xathor made, countering their strategies and using their enemies' own weaknesses against them. Their warships had become like a living organism, shifting seamlessly from one attack to the next. Without hesitation, the Xathor could not keep up. Their once advanced technologies had proven ineffective against the ingenuity of the human fleet. The gap between them and their attackers had only grown wider. The Xathor were losing their will to fight. The Xathor leadership made one final desperate attempt to break humanity's resolve. They launched a fleet of their most powerful ships in a last-ditch effort to turn the tide. It was their greatest hope to overwhelm humanity with sheer force. But this final move only sealed their fate. The Earth fleet had anticipated the attack. They knew the Xathor would resort to this and had set a trap in place. The human ships positioned themselves in a way that would allow them to launch a devastating counterattack with pinpoint accuracy. The Xathor forces did not stand a chance as the human warships unleashed their full might in a coordinated strike that shattered the alien fleet in moments. With their last major fleet destroyed, the Xathor had nowhere to turn. Their empire had crumbled. Their commanders had failed them, and their forces were in full retreat. There was no more fight left in them. They could see that humanity's victory was now inevitable. The survivors of the Xathor army fled in every direction, scrambling to escape the wrath of the human fleet. But the galaxy had already seen the truth. Humanity had become a force too powerful to challenge, too unified to defeat. In the final moments before the Xathor leadership made their surrender, a lone human ship broadcasted a message across the galaxy. The message was simple and unyielding: humanity had come for justice, and they had claimed it. Their message echoed in every corner of the galaxy, reminding all who heard it of the cost of underestimating humanity. It was a warning to every species that might think themselves above the human race. The Exothor had fallen and humanity had emerged victorious. Their response had been swift and overwhelming. And in the end, it was humanity's will to survive that had tipped the scales. The galaxy stood in silence as the dust settled on the battlefield. Where the Exothor had once reigned supreme, the human fleet had dealt its final blow, and now the remnants of the alien empire were scattered to the winds. The once powerful Exothor were now reduced to a mere shadow of their former selves. Their fleet had been annihilated, their leadership either in hiding or captured, and their empire left in ruins across the stars. Humanity had delivered a message so powerful and so final that no one could ignore it anymore. For the people of Earth, the war was over, but the effects of their victory would resonate throughout the galaxy for centuries to come. Humanity had proven that it would not be subjugated, that it would never back down in the face of overwhelming odds, and that it was a force that demanded respect. The story of Earth's retaliation would be told far and wide, from the farthest corners of the galaxy to the most distant outposts. Humanity's legacy was now written in the stars. The leaders of Earth gathered in the halls of the United Nations to discuss what came next. The war was over, but the work had only just begun. The Earth Council had to decide how to rebuild not just the planet, but its place in the galaxy. Humanity had shown its strength, but now it had to show its wisdom. The scars of war were deep, but the resolve of the human race was deeper. The Council knew that they could not allow the galaxy to fall into chaos, but they also knew that their actions had sent a clear message to any species who might think of crossing them. Humanity would never again be vulnerable, and it would not stand idly by as its colonies were attacked or destroyed. A new era had begun as the human race shifted its focus toward exploration and diplomacy. The galaxy was vast and full of potential, but humanity would no longer be a passive participant in its unfolding future. Earth had already begun to forge new alliances with species that had once looked at humanity with disdain or indifference. The events of the past few months had changed everything. The galaxy had seen the power of Earth's resolve, and now those who had once dismissed humanity as weak or insignificant knew better. Yet there were still those who feared humanity's power, and those who resented their growing influence in the galaxy. But humanity was not interested in domination. It was interested in survival and prosperity, for all humans knew that strength alone would not ensure their place in the stars. They would need allies and cooperation as they moved forward, but they would also be prepared to defend themselves and their colonies at all costs. The final moments of the war were marked by a simple but powerful act. Humanity had not just defended itself, it had protected the very essence of what it meant to be human: their colonies, their way of life, their future in the galaxy. It was a victory not just of military might, but of spirit. Humanity had shown the galaxy what it meant to fight for what was theirs, and to never give up no matter the odds. The human fleet returned to Earth victorious, but with the knowledge that their real battle was just beginning. The galaxy was now their playground. Their future was unwritten, and they would ensure that it would be one where they were not just survivors, but leaders of their own destiny. And with that, humanity's place in the galaxy was secured for good.